Welcome to Italy for the 6th round of the World Rally Championship. We're not on the mainland, but the stunning holiday island of Sardinia. But don't be fooled, behind the sandy beaches and the turquoise seas lie some treacherous rally stages, just waiting to catch out the unwary. The event is almost identical to 2008, which will mean plenty of fast and tricky stages that are lined with big rocks. There will also be plenty of road sweeping issues for the cars running first, as they will be clearing the sandy surface for those behind. In the championship, it's all about stopping one man. Sebastian Loeb has been perfection this season with 5 out of 5 wins. All the talk is of a clean sweep, but this is one of the few rallies to have caught out the Frenchman.
It's a difficult rally. It's very easy to make a mistake, and you have some very fast and narrow place with some big stone on the side. It's very slippery, so now it's everything to be difficult. So we will see.
Realistically, the challenge will more than likely come from the 4 drivers. The team are looking to bounce back after technical problems ruined their rally in Argentina. Both Hirvonen and Latvala have a good starting position and will be looking to control the rally on the opening 2 days. Loeb's 5 wins gives him a maximum haul of 50 points and a 19-point lead. Dani Sordo's 2nd place in Argentina helped him push Hirvonen down to 3rd. Henning Solberg's podium means he's now 6 ahead of his brother. Citroën have a massive lead of 39 points over Ford in the manufacturers table. After Argentina's Stobarts are now just 6 behind the factory Fords. Once again, the rally is based in the industrial port of Olbia in the northeast of the island. The stages are mainly run to the south of the town, and there are 2 new ones, both to be run on day 2. In all, there are 347 competitive kilometres for the crews to negotiate. Coming up, we look back at past rallies here in Sardinia, which have thrown up some fairly major incidents. It's time to talk tactics. We find out who comes up with the plans for the drivers as they try to avoid being the first car on the road. Peter Solberg has a new version of the Sara, and the main change is a bigger and better intercooler. There was a new backdrop for the opening ceremony, which took place on the seafront in Olbia. And it was an opportunity for privateer Mads Osberg to show his girlfriend the sights, as she has bravely stepped in at the last minute to be his co-driver for this rally.
Me and Veronica talked together and found out that, yeah, it might be a good opportunity for both of us to have some fun together and just go on a rally holiday.
Whilst over at Ford, M Sport unveiled the latest edition of the Fiesta rally car. Using the knowledge gained in the WRC, they've designed a highly versatile and affordable way to enter rallying.
It feels like a real rally car with the sequential gearbox, the big improvement on the brakes, and it's Ford's first global car. Means that we can actually in a position to sell this car to every single competitor throughout the world, because there will be a category in a class for this type of car.
The action ahead takes place in the hills above Olbia, and here's Dani Sordo's co-driver Mark Marty to give us some more details.
Okay, day 1 of Rally Sardegna will be 130 kilometers, 3 stages repeated twice. For me, the most important stage of the day will be Lual, stage number 2-5, because there are 14 new kilometers in the middle, very fast and tricky road. And then the other second of the leg, it will be the position on the road, because the cars will be cleaning a lot.
Day 1 is set for perfect dry, sunny conditions. Perfect for most, that is. But for Sebastian Loeb, the bone-dry roads mean the loose gravel surface will leave him at a big disadvantage. And the championship leader seems fully aware of his road-sweeping duties. Rally Sardinia is go. There's not much margin for error on these stages, as Citroën's #1 found out 2 years ago. But over the years, improvements to the routes have made this an increasingly quick event. Although, as we can see here, some of these roads are also incredibly bumpy. It's stages like this that make the event such a daunting challenge. But what's going on here? Dani Sordo should be next into the stage, but instead it's Hirvonen who's lining up. There's no sign of the Spaniard. Are we seeing some crafty tactics from Citroën already? Mikko is away and will have a slightly dirtier line than he should have done if he'd started behind Sordo. Hirvonen is also ill, suffering a fever in the build-up to the rally. It's going to be a difficult start for Ford's #1. Well, here is Danny Sordo. He started the stage 3 minutes late, collecting a 30-second penalty. This could well be a tactical swap, but it remains to be seen if there was a legitimate reason for Danny's pre-event delay. Using virtual spectator, we can see just how much of a disadvantage it is to be first on the road here in Sardinia. Unsurprisingly, after 11 kilometres, Loeb is already well off the pace. It's Jari-Matti Latvala who's out front, having started 7th. Hirvonen and Petter Solberg are both just behind at that point. Then comes Sordo, who's still to be handed his 30-second penalty, but even further back is Loeb. He's 4.4 seconds behind the leader. With Hirvonen only running 1 position behind the world champion, has he still been able to take advantage of his slightly clearer line then? Well, charging on towards the flying finish, is looking good. Yes, a strong first stage for Mikko. He's 5.5 seconds up on Loeb already, but I'm guessing he's not too impressed with his advanced road position this morning.
Mikko, you're meant to start the stage 3rd on the road, but you're 2nd on the road. A little bit of game playing going on there.
Yeah, looked like, I think Citroën pulled the same trick they did in New Zealand last year, but you know, that's the name of the game.
Sordo's not far back. He was quicker than Loeb in the stage 2, but was that tactics, or did the Spaniard have a genuine problem?
Danny, the main talking point is you were late into the stage. Why was that?
We had a problem with the cap door in the turbo, really. But it's okay. The stage really slippery, but everything okay. The car now is well.
Well, Danny certainly insistent that he was delayed by a mechanical issue. Petter Solberg, meanwhile, has an upgraded Citroën Zara at his disposal. He was expecting the changes to provide a marked improvement. Oh, but there seem to be early problems for the Norwegian.
Right, switch everything off and cool it like that.
And overheating the 6 last kilometers, it's terrible. Bloody we would have won the stage easy, you know, and
Plenty going on this opening stage of the Rally d'Italia then. Jari-Matti Latvala was leading the way at that last split time. So has the Finn been able to maintain his pace into the final kilometres. Fast approaching the finish line now. He's looking good to beat his teammate. Yes, Latvala is the early leader by 2.2 seconds. It's a forward 1-2 then after stage 1. Loeb is 3rd fastest, but already 7.7 seconds behind Latvala. Petter Solberg is 4th, but Sordo drops down to 12th when his 30-second penalty is added for arriving late at the start line. Rally d'Italia from Sardinia has a brutal and spectacular history. First run as a round of the WRC in 2004, the narrow stage is an uncompromising bedrock and a devastating retirement list. Engines failed, turbos coughed and spluttered, suspensions were wrecked and drivers crumbled under the pressure. Petter Solberg was clearly delighted to take victory here in the days when he was fighting Loeb for the championship. Marcus Gronholm crashed out in dramatic style when leading in 2005, while Citroën's Francois Duval spectacularly fell victim to the huge rocks lining the stages. Marcus Gronholm retired again after hitting a rock and losing oil pressure in 2006. Italian driver Gigi Gali also had a torrid time of it.
I don't know.
A stray water bottle accidentally broke the nose of his co-driver. Australian Chris Atkinson thrilled the crowds with one of the biggest jumps ever seen in this sport. Sebastian Loeb makes so few mistakes that when he does, no one forgets it. Leading on day 3 in 2007, this misjudgment handed victory to Marcus Gronholm. Last year lived up to his hostile reputation. Jari-Matti Latvala suffered a wretched puncture when leading on day 1. But day 2 saw Latvala and teammate Hirvonen hunt Loeb down as he struggled for grip, being first on the road. A thrilling fight continued to the final day. Loeb held on, taking victory by 10 seconds. The Fords will be looking for revenge this year. This rally has thrown up lots of action in the past then, and it looks like we've got plenty more to come this year as we head on to stages 2 and 3. Latvala is the early rally leader. Sebastian Loeb is currently in 3rd, almost 5.5 seconds behind Hirvonen. There are some incredibly quick sections in here, and the Frenchman's attacking hard. Loeb is almost 3 seconds quicker than Hirvonen in stage 2. And And with Mikko struggling with the flu, it's clearly hampering his senses as he seeks to respond in the 28-kilometre Krastatsa. After a miserable Rally Argentina, he desperately needs a win here, but there's another setback in stage 3. Hirvonen falls to third, now 3.7 seconds behind Loeb. Out front, though, there is no change. Lavala's maintained his strong pace over stages 2 and 3. He needs to silence his critics with a good performance in Italy, and it's been the perfect start so far. Jari-Matti has pulled out a lead of 14.6 seconds by the end of the morning loop, despite losing some time with a small engine problem. Sordo's mysterious mechanical problem that supposedly caused his tardy start appears to have been resolved meanwhile. The Spaniard began to claw his way back up from 12 with the fastest time on stage 2, but an impact with a rock on stage 3 damaged his front suspension. After losing another half a minute, he's still languishing down in 9th. Plenty of movement on the leaderboard though. Latvala still leads the way, but his closest challenger is now Loeb, with Hirvonen slipping behind the world champion. Petter Solberg still 4th, but Henning Solberg has now dropped down to 8th. As the teams head back to service in Olbia, the burning question was, had Sordo's problems before the first stage been an early tactical masterstroke? Ford and Citroën were sure to hold different views on the subject.
Danny had a problem at the beginning of the first stage this morning. Was that tactics?
No, unfortunately it was no tactics, but because you're going to the first stage, you don't want to lose straight away 30 seconds, and with his problem now we have lost another 30, so he's at 1 minute I think of Jari-Matti, so no, there were no tactics involved.
I don't think there's any question. I'm sure it was tactics. They've done it before, so I'm pretty confident that was the reason.
Does anybody have control of this game?
I don't think so.
At the moment it looks good, but you never know what can happen this afternoon, and keep trying to think of all the tricks up their sleeve, and obviously asking all our team as well, is there any other possibilities? So, you know, we've really got to be on our guard, but at the moment I have to say things seem pretty good.
The Citroën mechanics work furiously to repair Sordo's suspension, but he suffers another 30-second penalty for checking out of service late. Tactics seem to have started early here in Sardinia, and there's plenty more drama to come as the drivers jostle for position at the end of day 1. Welcome back. The main story on stage 4 was that Hirvonen trimmed Loeb's advantage to just 0.7 of a second, while another fastest time for Latvala leaves him with a lead of 18.4 as the crews head to stage 5. So let's get straight into the day's penultimate stage and what promises to be an interesting afternoon. Loeb won't want to be first on the road again for day 2, but his problem is both the Fords are behind him and able to react to his times. Hirvonen comes into the stage just 0.7 behind Loeb, but his main aim is not to pass Seb, but to stay within touching distance of the Frenchman. Petter Solberg has survived his overheating scare from the morning and continues to set an impressive pace in his privately entered Citroën Zara. The Norwegian's struggling a little, accelerating out of slow corners, but his 4th position should be secure for now. Back to the fight at the front now, though, and we'll soon find out if Hirvonen has been able to maintain the pace he showed in stage 4. Remember, Mikko's not looking to pass Loeb, but wants to stay as close behind as possible. So he's 5.3 seconds behind the world champion, going into the all-important final stage of the day.
I really need to look after my tyres. I mean, we were struggling earlier in rallies, and it's really hot and quite abrasive now. I need to back off and to save the tyres a little bit.
Jari-Matti Latvala made a few setup changes in service, and while he's still pushing, he's not willing to take excessive risks this afternoon. Understandable considering his disappointing run of results this season. With Loeb setting his first fastest time of the day, Jari-Matti's lead is trimmed to 17.2 seconds. Having worked hard to hold on to 5th place, meanwhile, Sébastien Ogier is battling to hold off his young teammate Evgeny Novikov. A damaged left-hand front damper spells the end of Ogier's day, though he should return as a Super Rally entry tomorrow. But for now, it's the end of the road. Here's Henning Solberg, and look at this. One of the bonnet pins has come loose. The bonnet is flapping around. Well, that's certainly not going to help his concentration.
6 høyre over 150. Hold in til synlig. Kutt 5 venstre pluss.
Whoa! And there goes his bonnet. It's completely ripped off its hinges and flown over the car. A scary moment there.
Til flatt 6 høyre over lang grunn.
Henning is just under 8 seconds behind Novikov, and with Ogier out, everyone behind has moved up, including Danny Sordo, who makes it back into the points places. Little change within the top 3, though, with Latvala still leading the way. We have one more stage to run here in Sardinia today. Before we get back to the front runners, we can round up the drivers fighting it out lower down the order. It's been a great day for Citroen's Evgeny Novikov. He's on course to complete this opening leg in 5th. Stobart VK4 driver Matthew Wilson had a disappointing start to the rally. A hydraulic problem forced him to switch to the manual gear shift and left him with no centre differential. It's made his Ford Focus really tough to drive, but he's already fought back from 13th to 9th. After securing his best ever finish on home soil in Argentina, Federico Valagra, meanwhile, has come back to earth with a bump. He's been hampered with clutch problems all morning, and it eventually leads to his retirement 1 kilometre into stage 5. Mads Osberg is back for his 3rd rally of the season in his privately run Subaru Impreza. As we heard earlier, the Norwegian is running with his girlfriend Veronica Engen as his current co-driver, and it's been a good run for the happy couple. They're currently in 7th. Earlier at service, Ford and Citroen's crack teams of analysts and engineers have been flat out devising a complex tactical plan ahead of the day's final stage. The massive time losses suffered by sweeping the road here in Sardinia forced the teams to formulate tactics to prevent their drivers from being first on the road on day 2.
As we saw last year, I mean, Jari Matti basically almost pulled a minute and a half back on day 2 because he had a good position, because he had problems on day 1. So, you know, it's how much of a lead do you need?
Both Ford and Citroen employ a team tasked with developing tactics within the rules that will give them the edge.
First of all, respect the FIA sporting rules, and then to see if we can find gaps in there that we can use when it comes down to tactics.
Prior to the event, we've got the engineers who go and analyse all the stages. So we've got the information back from them as to the condition, and also we've got, you know, most important is the driver and the co-driver, their feeling of the stages and how much advantage they think they'll gain.
While both Ford and Citroen rely on a team to formulate the plan, they clearly differ on who has the final say on what to do.
Unfortunately, that falls on my shoulders.
Is it always you that makes the final decision on what you do?
Yes, because I'm in the car, and if I don't want to lift, I can continue.
The final stage of the day will be where the team's tactical dogfight begins. Gaining the upper hand here could decide the outcome of the rally, and as the tension builds, neither Ford or Citroen will give anything away.
Some of it is, I really shouldn't say it, probably some of it is actually seat of the pants stuff as well, because if something happens on the last stage when you think you've got your strategy worked out, then you've got to react and you know, be able to think very quickly on your feet.
Talking about tactics, we're all talking generally about slowing down, but there are other methods you can employ.
And you want me to say now what I will do, so then it's not a tactic, no?
So this is it then, the final stage of the day in the 28 kilometres of Crestazza will decide who'll start first on the road for the second day. Here is Sebastian Loeb, he's first on the road, which means he could really struggle to influence the outcome of this stage, as the others can react to anything he does. But look at this, he's stopped. The yellow boards that mark the start of the flying finish are just ahead. They seem to be stopping for an incredibly long time. The clock's still ticking. Well, look at this. He's been stationary for a massive 23 seconds. An interesting tactic from Seb and Daniel Elena. It now falls to Hirvonen to respond. Mikko is also fast approaching the finish, and the Ford team will have relayed Loeb's final time. Back to Mikko in the car, so his co-driver will be working out about now that Mikko needs to lose a lot of time if he's to finish behind Seb. Surprisingly, he's not stopped before the yellow boards, and his co-driver Jarmo Leightonen's getting pretty agitated, telling Mikko he needs to slow down. The clock shows us he needs to lose a lot more time, but remember, the rules dictate you can't stop between the yellow boards and the finish. This is a nightmare for the Finn. There isn't enough road left. He's beaten Loeb's time and passed the Frenchman. He will now start day 2 ahead of Loeb. It looks like Mikko simply couldn't believe Seb had stopped for so long. Well, Citroën again winning the tactical battle there. Ford are forced into a rethink, and that means telling the rally leader Latvala to go flat out and build as big a lead as possible after the 2 men behind him have both slowed. Here comes the finish line now. And he's done exactly that. 25.6 seconds quicker than Loeb. He finishes the day almost 40 seconds ahead of his teammate and 42.8 ahead of Loeb. So there are the day 1 standings. Latvala holds a lead of nearly 40 seconds, but while it is a Ford 1-2, Loeb is exactly where he wants to be in 3rd, and with a more favourable road position than Hirvonen for day 2.
Mikko, what happened?
Well, basically in the end, I just couldn't believe how much Sebastian slowed down before it was too late, and you can't stop between yellow and red board, and I came through as slow as I could, but it was just not enough, and I ended up still being 2 seconds in front of him. So really big mistake from me.
Mikko had the time to react, but I think he made a bit wrong in the calculation or something. But he tried to react, but no, it's good. I didn't expect this. Expected maybe to be second on the road and to have only Latvala in front. And finally, Mikko has done very well in the last.
We had all the knowledge early enough to do what we need to do, but I just made a mistake on my own.
It's a Ford 1-2 at the end of day 1, but there's more action to come, and it's not just the Finns who are flying. Welcome back to the Rally Italia Sardegna ACI. There are 6 stages to come on the 2nd day, and here to tell us more is Danny Sordo's co-driver, Mark Marty.
Rally Sardegna, day 2, again 130 kilometers, and again 3 stages 2 times. There are 2 important things. First is that there are 2 new stages, first and second one. The second one with a big jump, big crazy motocross jump. And then in the third stage, stage number 9, there are also an enormous jump, a famous Red Bull jump. This stage is very long and should be very abrasive and difficult for the tires.
So after all the tactical fun and games of the previous day, who knows what we can expect this morning? The Ford team had their drivers 1st and 2nd, but in terms of their game plan for the weekend, they could be in trouble. Whoa, and Sebastian Loeb's looking spectacular here in stage 7. He's promised to attack hard today, and with a 43-second deficit to make up on the rally leader, he really doesn't have any choice. Sebastian will be more than comfortable on this short tarmac section, but most of this stage is treacherous and rocky, and he's strangely off the pace in here. Not the start Loeb was hoping for then. He's now 15 seconds behind Hirvonen and 49 behind Latvala. Further back, Henning Solberg's made it past Evgeny Novikov. Straight onto the 22-kilometre Fiorentini stage, and after surprising everyone and soundly beating Loeb in stage 7, will we see more of the same from Ford through stage 8. Latvala is under instruction from his team to push as hard as possible, and despite running first on the road, he's still giving it everything here. Hirvonen can take heart from his stage-winning performance through Sardegna. Unfortunately, though, the gravel surface of stage 8 is cleaning more, and Loeb could make the most of his superior road position here. Oh, but this wasn't in the script. Some wild horses are on the stage. A scary moment for Mikko, and that won't have helped his momentum, not to mention his nerves. And a few kilometres later, there's more horses on the road. A bizarre run for Hirvonen, and more importantly, it's costing him valuable time. Loeb will have to watch out for horses then, and begins the next test 15 seconds behind Mikko, and immediately Seb looks determined to make up for his sluggish getaway in the previous test. Peter Solberg's been mainly pleased with his upgraded Citroën Zara this weekend. He took advantage of Loeb and Hirvonen's game of cat and mouse yesterday to start 3.5 seconds behind Loeb in 4th. Further back, Evgeny Novikov's in trouble. He's really wide here. He's just lost 5th place to Henning Solberg, so really didn't need that.
20 straight, left 2 narrow. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, and an overshoot now too. He'll lose a lot of time here. His co-driver Dale Moscad apologising for a bad pace note there. By the end of the stage, they've slipped down from 6th to 8th. A frustrating morning so far for Evgeny. At the head of the field, with Latvala already through the stage, this time it's his teammate who's been off the pace. Hirvonen 0.7 of a second slower than Latvala. It really wasn't a great stage for Mikko. The early split times have been looking very promising for Loeb, though. He's more than making up for his frustrating performance in stage 7 at the moment. Just the last few corners to negotiate, and this is looking to be a terrific time for the world champion. He could get past Hirvonen here. Oh, not quite. Mikko's advantage is down to just 0.9 of a second.
I just had some brake problem in the stage. I had to pump always, and I hope we can fix it for the next one.
Possible problems for Loeb then, but he did make up some time on the Fords. He's just 0.9 behind Hirvonen, while he's reduced the gap to the leader to 35 seconds. Peter Solberg lost some time on the leading trio, but still looks safe in 4th. As we've heard, Petter has upgraded his car to a 2006 version of the Citroën Zara, and here is the Norwegian to explain the main benefits of his new car.
What you can see is this air intake here is bigger compared with the 05 car. Makes the more air come in to cool down the intercooler, so we get colder air into the engine, so the car goes faster.
Using Virtual Spectator, we can see how the air is fed in through the turbo. It compresses the air and in the process actually heats it to about 250 degrees Celsius. The air then passes through the intercooler, which acts like a radiator, cooling the hot air back down to approximately 40 degrees. If the air is hot, then it expands, which means you can fit less into the cylinder. The result is less oxygen, so less fuel can be burnt. If the air is cooled, though, more can be fitted into the cylinder, so there's more oxygen. More fuel can be burnt and produces more power. Back to the action now, and Sebastian Loeb and Daniel Elena are having trouble with the most up-to-date Citroën World Rally car, the C4. They are forced to bleed their troublesome brakes in their bid to close the gap on the Fords. Petter will hope he can maintain his hold on 4th place as the crews move on to stage 9. In these hot conditions, the bigger intercooler has been invaluable, cooling the hot air, and as a result, he's still in touch with the top 3.
To slide right, upwards of a crest, 50, line to 3 right tightens, 1 plus, to turn, 1.
Montilerno is famous for its spectacular jumps, and as the longest stage of the weekend at 29 kilometres, it's going to be tough for Latvala as the first car on the road. There is a lot of loose gravel around for the Finn to sweep clear in here. Mikko Hirvonen is also on his way into the stage. He's still attacking. Every second counts on this crucial second day. Frustratingly for Loeb, he was a minute late into the stage after his brake problems, earning himself a 10-second penalty. So how much will that affect his bid to hunt down Mikko in here?
Droite 80 plus sur gauche à fond et droit se frein pour gauche 100.
Well, to add insult to injury, Seb is 3.4 seconds quicker than Mikko in the stage. That would have given him second place, but unfortunately his time penalty means he'll have to try again later. Henning Solberg's had a successful morning so far, having already made it up to 5th. But he's got problems in here. His right front wheel has almost completely deflated, and this is clearly going to cost him a lot of time. With over 20 kilometres to get through on only 3 wheels, Henning drops a minute and a half and falls down to 8th. A bit of a reshuffle at the bottom end of the top 8 then. Solberg's back behind Novikov, with Sordo now within 27 seconds of Petter Solberg's 4th place. Loeb remains in 3rd when his 10-second penalty is applied, and up front, Latvala is still in control. It's back to service at the port of Olbia.
Are you fighting for the lead of this rally, or now are you just part of a bigger plan for Ford to get a win?
No, I'm definitely fighting for the lead. I definitely want to win this rally, and but of course it's difficult. Jari-Matti has a big lead, and it's going to be more difficult now in the afternoon to take some time out of him.
The plan is to be in the lead after the day, and I'm still quite confident with that.
Popular Italian Gigi Gali suffered a broken hip from this crash in Germany last year. He's here in Sardinia this weekend and planning his comeback.
Gigi, so here we are in Sardinia. Welcome back. Are you fully recovered now from your accident?
Yes, I think so. Everything is 100% with my leg, with my physical preparation. So even my head now is starting to recover and starting to be good.
Because I understand you have a little bit of money, which you could do maybe 1 or 2 drives this year, but you prefer to keep that money and maybe do a fuller program next year.
Exactly. I don't feel to throw away some money just to run 2 or 3 events don't make sense.
Back up to the hills above Olbia then, and there was little change over stage 10. But it was another good run for Hirvonen. He went fastest again to pull further away from Loeb. So we move on to stage 11 for the next chapter of this fascinating battle. Latvala begins the second run through Fiorentini, 19.3 seconds ahead of his teammate. Oh, but a spin for the rally leader. The changing grip on this tarmac section may have caught him out, and that will cost him a few seconds. A chance for Mikko to close up then, and after a good run through the previous stage, Hirvonen also has a fighting chance of staying ahead of Loeb, if indeed he wants to. Sebastian begins the 22-kilometre stage almost 13 seconds behind Hirvonen, so if he does want to finish the day ahead of the Finn, he needs to start pushing immediately. It was looking good for the Frenchman, but there's a problem here. He's picked up a puncture, and it's the last thing he needed at this crucial stage of the rally. Daniel Elena already out with the jack and wheel gun, and they are quickly into action. Loeb and Elena will have trained for this moment. And this looks like an incredible time for changing a wheel. The safety harnesses are frantically clipped on, and that was a quite extraordinary time. Set into gear, and they are back and running, having only lost just over a minute. Loeb really is super fast with everything he does. Henning Solberg's already slipped back to 8th this morning. It's been a frustrating day so far. Oh, and that was a big impact. Unfortunately for Henning, that tree has caused substantial damage to his right front suspension. That's the end of the day for the Norwegian. It's already been a disappointing stage for Citroën, but there could be worse to come for the French team. Loeb's teammate Danny Sordo is slowing dramatically because of a turbo problem. The Spaniard was 5th going into the stage, but he drops to 8th by the end. It's really not been a great weekend for Danny and Mark Marty. Citroën junior team driver Conrad Rautenbach is hoping to improve after a torrid ride on day 1. In stage 11, he adds to the Citroën casualty list. That front left damper has ended his participation in day 2. Back to the front runners then, and a huge opportunity for Hirvonen to strike a killer blow in his hopes of claiming his first win of the season. With Loeb dropping back, Mikko can switch his attention to the rally leader. Just like yesterday, he'll want to stay behind for a better road position. He's quicker, but only by 1/10 of a second. He's still 19.2 behind. With new Citroën managing director Jean-Marc Gall watching on, it's been a case of damage limitation for Loeb, though. He's now charging on towards the finish to make up as much time as possible. They are just over a minute slower than Hirvonen, and that could be the end of Seb's hopes of his clean sweep of wins this season.
That is a very fast tyre change, 1 minute.
The tyre change is good. The stage time is worse. So.
To add insult to injury, Petter Solberg has claimed his first scratch time of the weekend in the car that Loeb was driving in 2006. He takes advantage of Sebastian's puncture to pass the world champion and move into third. After that dramatic stage then, Loeb's down in fourth. He's over a minute and a half behind the leader and almost 30 seconds behind Petter. The two Ford drivers are separated by 19.2 seconds with one stage remaining on day 2. So let's get straight to the final action of the day over this infamous stage then. Petter Solberg is as spectacular as ever over the famous jump, but judging by the early split times, the Norwegian is losing a lot of time to Loeb in here. He should finish the day in third, but he's going to have a tough task on his hands holding on to the position on the final leg. To watch over the day's final stage could be between the four drivers. Rally leader Latvala's impressive 2 over the jump as he looks to protect his 19.2 second advantage, but both Ford men now have a realistic chance of scoring their first win of the year. There are no chance of any road order tactics now from the Ford men. Hirvonen will be intent on getting as close as he can to his teammate and fellow Finn. He'll happily finish behind Latvala to ensure a better road position on the final day, and we'll soon know what his deficit will be.
Lyhyt vasen hidas ylinypy sisältä, jarru 2, oikea vasen tosi hidas, tiukka aukee. Maali 4, vasen tosi hidas.
He's closed the gap to just under 10 seconds. Hirvonen could be perfectly positioned to push for victory tomorrow. To Loeb then, and full commitment and plenty of air over the jump. He needs to come up with something special over the final day to get back on terms with the Ford men. He certainly started his fight back in determined fashion. He's just 2.2 seconds behind Petter Solberg by the end of the day. Latvala has the advantage over his teammate Hirvonen. Petter Solberg is third, and Loeb will hope to pass him and may still have greater ambition than that. Heartbreak for Mads Osberg and his girlfriend as a broken steering arm retires them from the day. Back at service, how good a position does Hirvonen think he's in to take Latvala on day 3?
Situation is really good for me at the moment, and I managed to take 25 or something like that out of him today, and tomorrow stages are going to be cleaning even more, I think, so at the moment it looks good.
It's been a dramatic second day here in Sardinia. Ford hold the top 2 spots, but with only 10 seconds separating them, this rally is far from over. Day 3 follows. Welcome back to Sardinia for the final day of the rally. There are 5 stages to go, and here's Mark Marty again to give us his guide to what's coming up.
Rally Sardegna, day 3. This is the shortest day of the rally, 86 kilometers only and 5 stages. The first 2 stages are quite tricky, very difficult, and the position of the road will be very important again. And then this stage number 15 that we did only one time, we're going to do only one time, is very fast stage.
After what's already been a fascinating weekend then, the final act begins with the 19-kilometre Monte Olia. The stage is set for a thrilling fight for victory between the 4 drivers. Latvala has led the rally from the very first stage, and he begins the final morning just under 10 seconds ahead of his teammate. He remains on course for his second WRC victory, but how much will he suffer running first on the road? goes, he should be perfectly positioned to make a late charge for glory. But look at this, the still air and low sun could cause havoc here, because with Latvala's dust trail still hanging, Mikko's visibility is severely limited here. Looking at his telemetry, he's using the brake a lot more here than he'd like. He can't get above fourth gear, and it's looking like this could be a disaster for Hirvonen in his hopes of making up some time on his teammate. He's actually going to be a lot slower in here. Oh dear, 18.6 seconds down on the leader. He's now the best part of half a minute behind.
It's impossible now. It's so much dust that you can't see anything, absolutely anything. So I went twice off already because sun is shining into the dust and it's really bad.
Hanging dust is affecting everyone behind Latvala, so Sebastian Loeb too has to back off. His first target this morning is Petter Solberg, and despite his lack of visibility, Seb does enough to close up to just 1/10 of a second behind the Norwegian by the end of stage 13. In the early morning cool air though, Petter's upgraded intercooler is providing him with just enough power to keep Loeb behind. Despite a small moment here, Petter Solberg manages to beat Loeb in stage 14 to extend his advantage to 2.3 seconds. Danny Sordo's problems have continued meanwhile. He's already stopped a number of times to investigate his ongoing turbo problem. The Spaniard had been 8th overall, but slips down to a lowly 24th after dropping more than 20 minutes over these two stages. So after all that, Latvala's lead has increased to 32 seconds over his teammate. Petter, though, is just 2.3 ahead of Loeb. And now, onto the final loop of stages. After his delay in the dust earlier, Hirvonen is running out of time to close up on the rally leader. Mikko beats Latvala on stage 15, but only by 0.8 of a second. And on 16, Jari-Matti fights back to maintain his advantage of more than half a minute with just one stage remaining. Time and kilometres are running out for Mikko. Loeb begins the final loop just 2.3 seconds behind Petter Solberg's third place, and with the hanging dust gone, Sebastian's free to make a charge to get back on the podium. It's a faster stage in Arzachena, and Loeb takes full advantage in his more advanced Citroën C4. He beats Petter by almost 9 seconds on stage 15 to surge back into third. Evgeny Novikov is still in 5th and looking good now to secure his best ever finish and the first WRC points of his career.
40.
He's still only 18 years old, and after an error-filled last few rallies for the Citroën junior driver, the Russian looks to be finally fulfilling his potential. Heading so on a charge. The Norwegian is driving under Super Rally rules after hitting a tree on day 2, but still has an outside chance for passing his compatriot Mads Osberg for 7th. Henning claims his first fastest times of the weekend on stages 15 and 16. And that sees the Stobart 4-man lie just 9.5 seconds behind Osberg with just the final stage to run. Up front though, Latvala will surely now claim the win. He's almost 32 seconds ahead of Hirvonen, with Loeb back up to third. On to the final 18.6 kilometres then to decide the outcome, and let's get straight back to the all-Norwegian battle for 7th. It's an incredibly tight finish, but it's Osberg and his co-driving girlfriend who finish on top. They hold on to the position by just 0.6 of a second to stay in front of Henning, and Mads claims his second points finish of the season. It looks like Loeb's winning run is about to come to an end. His delay on stage 11, which was caused by a damaged tyre valve, has ultimately ended his hopes of challenging the Fords, but third place keeps his championship challenge on track.
It didn't work this weekend. Everything we tried didn't work, so okay, we are third. It's not so bad.
There has been some speculation that Ford may use team orders to allow Hirvonen to win and give him the best possible chance to fight Loeb for the driver's title. Mikko, though, has been soundly beaten by his young teammate and may have to accept second place. Crucially, he finishes ahead of Loeb for the first time this season, and the Ford team are delighted with that fact.
Mikko, that's the end of Sardinia. It's second place overall. It's been a tough rally.
Yeah, second place overall. That's my destiny. Always second. We had a good rally, and it was just shame this morning there was so much dust. Otherwise, we would have a really good fight, and we would have been able to fight for the win. But this is how it is in the end, and Jari-Matti definitely deserves his victory. So that's fine.
And what a turnaround it's been for Jari-Matti Latvala. After his huge accident in Portugal 2 rallies ago, there were rumours he could lose his seat at Ford, but this weekend he's reminded the rally world of his precocious talents. The 24-year-old has kept his head, he's led from start to finish and fully deserves the win. No team orders from Ford, the win goes to Jari-Matti and co-driver Mika Anttila. His reaction at the finish line shows you how much this means to Ford's talented young star.
It is a big relief, you know, the last days were so hard to me, and great thanks to team, they did a great work, and thanks for the Malcolm, and it was a great thing that I was able to win this rally. This really means a lot to me, and also for the team 1-2.
So after all that, Latvala claims his second WRC victory by a margin of 29.4 seconds ahead of his teammate. Loeb has to settle for third. But after a miserable Rally Argentina, it's the perfect medicine for the Ford team, and the celebrations at service can begin in earnest.
A great confidence boost to you personally.
Of course, it is a big thing because self-confidence has been really low. I have done a lot of mistakes. I think so. Some people have maybe even thinking about my future quite a lot, but team has had the support on me, and now it's finally we got it back there, and like a new evolution.
I must say the two guys they've done a fantastic event. They've coped with everything that's been thrown at them tactic-wise, and to come out and get the result like this, it's a dream result.
But there's late drama here in Sardinia as Loeb is handed a 2-minute penalty after his co-driver Daniel Elena undid his seatbelts before the car had come to a complete stop on stage 11 as the pair prepared to change the wheel mid-stage.
You can see that he is just before he slows down. Daniel has unfastened his seatbelts, so you can say yes, the car should have been stopped. But I think 2 minutes for that is a fair penalty.
For sure, I prefer to be third, but okay. They took this decision. We have to accept it. It's like that. I didn't take any risk. I'm the first one who is in the car, so I don't want to go in a tree without the belt. But okay, the regulation is the regulation, and maybe we did a bit wrong, so we accept that.
And that 2-minute penalty drops Loeb down to 4th place, handing Petter Solberg his second podium of the season. Crucially, though, it only cost Sebastian a single point in the Drivers' Championship. In the title race then, Hirvonen closes slightly on Loeb, but he's still 17 points behind. He is at least back into second position, pushing Sordo down to third. In the Manufacturers' Championship, Citroën still gets 7 points despite Loeb's penalty. Ford's 18 points means they've closed the gap. At Porto-Cervo, though, the celebrations can begin on the podium. A stunning victory for Jari-Matti Latvala, and Petter Solberg will be delighted to be on the third step. The latest brutal visit to Sardinia has been a memorable one, and at the halfway point of the season, Loeb has seen his first setback in the championship race. We'll see you again in Greece, but for now from Sardinia, it's goodbye.